phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
Yo, what do YouTube? B. Kelly back again with another banger. Today's video, y'all, I'm gonna be talking about the Tyrod Taylor story. From being a 5-star quarterback in high school to being potentially replaced by 2 rookie quarterbacks in his career. In Hampton, Virginia, at Hampton High School, Tyrod Taylor was a 3-sport athlete in football, basketball, and track. But he did most of his damage in football. He started all 4 years as a starting quarterback for Hampton High. And as a starting quarterback at Hampton High for 4 seasons, he led the team to a 34-4 record, and he passed for 5,144 yards with 44 touchdowns, while rushing for 2,546 yards and 56 touchdowns in his career. In the 2007 recruiting class, Tyrod Taylor was a 5-star recruit, according to 247 Sports. And he was the 17th best player in the nation, but he was the number 1 player in Virginia and the number 1 quarterback in the nation in the 2007 class. Tyrod Taylor would commit to Virginia Tech and be a Hokie. In the 2007 college football season at Virginia Tech, Tyrod Taylor as a freshman primarily served as a backup, but he would start in a few games and appeared in most of them for the Hokies. Let's talk about his numbers now. He played in 11 games, and he completed 54% of his passes roughly. And he threw for 927 yards with 5 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. And on the ground, he did some damage as well, with 429 rushing yards, averaging about 4 yards per carry, with 6 touchdowns. Not a bad season for a freshman in college football, playing in the Power 5 level, primarily as a backup if you ask me. In the 2008 college football season at Virginia Tech, Tyrod Taylor as a sophomore was actually intending on redshirting this season, but that didn't work out. He would be taken off redshirt after 1 game after Virginia Tech lost to East Carolina week 1 because the offense just wasn't that high powered and they needed someone to be a spark. So he was that man who would be the spark in the offense. For this season, he would be the primary starting quarterback most of the time, unless he was hurt, which he was out a couple games. For this season, he would appear in 12 games for Virginia Tech, where he complete about 57% of his passes, throwing for 1,036 yards with 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. But on the ground, he did rush for 738 yards, averaging 5 yards a carry with 7 touchdowns, and even helped lead Virginia Tech to a 10-4 record and an Orange Bowl victory. Not only that, but he won the ACC championship game that year and was the ACC championship game MVP as well. In his junior season in the 2008 college football season, Tyrod Taylor was finally named a starting quarterback going into week 1 for the first time in his college football career. And he definitely didn't disappoint as QB1. He completed 56% of his passes, throwing for 2,311 yards, with 13 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And on the ground, he rushed for 370 yards, averaging about 3.5 per carry, with 5 touchdowns. And he led Virginia Tech to a 10-3 record this season, and even won the Chick-fil-A Bowl as well versus Tennessee. In the 2010 college football season, Virginia Tech got off to a very disappointing start to start off the season, with losses to Boise State and James Madison, but they would bounce back ultimately and win 11 straight and even win the ACC. Tyrod Taylor absolutely ate up this season, playing in all 14 games, completing about 60% of his passes, throwing for 2,743 yards with 24 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. And on the ground, he rushed for 659 yards, averaging about 4.5 a carry with 5 touchdowns. The dude was lethal his senior season. And for the 2010 college football season, Tyrod Taylor was named the ACC Player of the Year, and he was the ACC Championship Game MVP. Although Tyrod Taylor had a pretty dang good career at Virginia Tech, not many people viewed him as a person that can be a quarterback in the NFL, and many teams thought he would be better off playing receiver. But Tyrod Taylor wanted to be a quarterback, and his draft stock was not very high going into the 2011 NFL Draft, but he would be drafted in the 6th round with the 180th overall pick to the Baltimore Ravens. For the Baltimore Ravens, Tyrod Taylor would never really play a lot, as he was a backup quarterback the entire time he was there behind Joe Flacco, and he was in Baltimore for 4 seasons, from 2011 to 2014. Like I said earlier, he was a backup quarterback, but when he was in, it was mainly wildcat sets, or handing the ball off, or just garbage time, period. but he did get a Super Bowl win with the Ravens in the 2012 NFL season. Going into the 2015 NFL season, Tyrod Taylor signed with the Buffalo Bills, and he was even named the starting quarterback going into Week 1 after beating quarterbacks such as former first-round pick E.J. Manuel and veteran quarterback Matt Castle. In the 2015 NFL season, the Bills would go 8-8, but Tyrod Taylor would only play in 14 games, and as a starting quarterback, he went 7-6 as a starter. In this season, he completed about 64% of his passes, throwing for 3,035 yards with 20 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Not to mention, on the ground, he rushed for 568 yards with 4 touchdowns, averaging about 5.5 per carry. If you ask me, this is a pretty good season for a first-year starter in the NFL. Also this season, Tyrod Taylor would make his first ever Pro Bowl game. In the 2016 NFL season with the Buffalo Bills, Tyrod Taylor would appear in 15 games and start in 15 games, going 7-8 as a starting quarterback. He would complete about 62% of his passes this season, throwing for 3,023 yards with 17 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And on the ground this season, he would rush for 580 yards with 6 touchdowns and averaging about 6.1 yards a carry, and the Buffalo Bills would miss the playoffs yet again. In the 2017 NFL season, Tyrod Taylor would lead the Buffalo Bills to their first ever playoff appearance since 1999. And on this season, he played in 15 games and started in 14 of them, being 8-6 as a starter, completing about 63% of his passes, roughly, throwing for 2,799 yards with 14 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. And on the ground, he rushed for 427 yards with 4 touchdowns, averaging about 5 yards a carry. Although Tyrod Taylor was pretty decent for the Buffalo Bills and even made a Pro Bowl and helped lead them to their first ever playoff appearance since the 1999 NFL season, he would be traded in the 2018 offseason to the Cleveland Browns for a 2018 third-round pick. And the Browns clearly didn't have a lot of faith in Tyrod Taylor because they just ended up drafting Baker Mayfield with their number 1 overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft. In the 2018 NFL season with the Cleveland Browns, Tyrod Taylor would be named the starting quarterback going into Week 1, but that would not last very long as he would only appear in 3 games as a starting quarterback, as he won 1 game, lost 1 game, and he tied in 1 game. And he played pretty bad as well. He only completed 49% of his passes, going for 473 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And on the ground, he did do pretty good, I would say, rushing for 125 yards with 1 touchdown, averaging about 8 yards a carry. But the thing is, Tyrod Taylor with the offense was not fluid, and they were not putting up a lot of points at all. And if they were going to win a game, it would be very close and low scoring. The Browns were not looking good with him. So he got benched in favor of the number 1 pick, Baker Mayfield. And if you guys know NFL football, you know Baker Mayfield took that job and Tyrod Taylor was benched the entire season because Baker Mayfield played really good while Tyrod Taylor played really bad in the beginning of the season. After getting replaced by Baker Mayfield in Cleveland in the 2019 NFL offseason, Tyrod Taylor would leave the Browns and go to LA and join the Chargers, where he would be a backup quarterback in the 2019 NFL season, the Phillip Rivers, the entire season. Tyrod Taylor would play in 8 games, but he would not really do much as he would mainly play in garbage time minutes. But in the 2020 NFL season, Tyrod Taylor would be named the starting quarterback for the LA Chargers, even though they drafted Justin Herbert with their first-round pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. And so far this season, he only appeared in 1 game and he started in 1 game, and he even won where he completed 53% of his passes, throwing for 208 yards, and on the ground in that 1 game he did play in, he rushed for 7 yards and even had a rushing touchdown. But the thing is, Tyrod Taylor might be getting replaced very, very, very soon by Justin Herbert, as Justin Herbert is starting right now for the LA Chargers, because Tyrod Taylor, who had a messed up rib, was supposed to get an injection from the trainer that was supposed to help him with the pain, but it was botched. It was botched hard. Tyrod Taylor is hurt now and has a punctured lung, and it's really uncertain when he's going to come back from a punctured lung. And as long as Justin Herbert keeps playing the way he is, even though he's not winning games, they're going to replace him with Justin Herbert, which kind of sucks, and it's just really unlucky for Tyrod Taylor. I mean, this guy, he's not a bad quarterback, and I feel like he's very underappreciated. I see a lot of people on Twitter trashing on this guy, acting like he's trash, but he's a pretty decent quarterback. Is he the best quarterback ever? Definitely not. But is he horrible? No. Is he consistent? Not always. But he's a pretty decent quarterback, and I think he should be given a fair shot when he comes back from his punctured lung. But I definitely see him getting replaced by Justin Herbert very soon after he comes back. Well, guys, if you guys liked the video, remember to smash that like button, turn on them post notifications, and subscribe for more videos. B. Kelly out!